Hi, my name is Yana. I'm a modern ajumma. I'm rolling through. I'm home alone today. I had lunch. I put more makeup on, put on a new shirt to pretend like it's another day, but my hair is really messy and I don't feel like fixing it. Who cares? We're here to talk about the books I read in the month of June. Let's go. I'm getting caught up. That is the best feeling in the world when you know that you're backed up and it's just all out. The relief. I read Home at Last, Enduring Design for the New American House by Gil Schafer III. This is really random. I just walked into my local Barnes & Noble. I saw this book on the shelves, got it from the library instead so that I don't have to pay. And then the book was due, but I liked it so much I wanted to keep it forever, so I bought it. I treated myself. Yeah, this was an impulse library pickup that I ended up really liking, and it's super heavy, but whatever. Let's call it arm day. So first of all, this book is gorgeous. I don't make it a habit to read books about interiors, but I do like to read like art books, and Gil Schafer is an architect. Within this book, he talks about the houses that he's built for his clients over the years throughout his career, and each chapter is like a house. You know, he has a pretty typical classic American style of the likes that which Nancy Myers and Ina Garten exemplify. I'm sure they would be his customers. And I was telling myself while reading my library copy, that if I were a classic interiors girl, I can see this being like a Bible. And I guess because I purchased it, I must be a classic interior style girly. And maybe I do want to make this into my Bible. Really stunning photos of stunning spaces. I really did enjoy each story of his clients and how the spaces serve them. There was like a crazy house in Maine where the owners wanted a one-story bedroom house that usually would be a SoCal bungalow, but they happen to have Northern European furniture, and that needs to not clash. And during construction, they traveled to Japan, and then upon arrival, they wanted to incorporate Japanese elements into this European space, and even like chided Schafer for like never having traveled to Japan. So he went to Kyoto. And he learned a lot, and he made that property somehow work really beautifully. I really appreciate all the included maps of showing all of the various components within each property chapter. And it was really illuminating seeing how he mixed all of these seemingly incongruous elements into cohesive spaces for each singular client. Only in America. I could pour through this book for years. I really did enjoy it. I mean, rich people goals, not saying like this is aspirational. It really is just, for me personally, a book exemplifying higher level architecture and spaces in which we live. I think my favorite chapter was I don't know what he calls it, but I immediately saw it as like the summer camp house where I could just fantasize owning that house and inviting my entire family regularly for every holiday, every summer vacation, where we would make all the core memories. And that is the approach that he takes when he's designing every inhabitable element. Yeah, I was not out in the architectural book market, but it got me. I read Illustrators Sketchbooks, Inside the Creative Processes of 60 Iconic and Emerging Artists by Martin Salisbury. This is another book that I saw the same day at Barnes & Noble that I just got from my library, and I also really enjoyed this. I love that it's shaped like a one of those wide sketchbooks to showcase like other any of this? No, it's a moleskin. No, this is another moleskin. Oh geez. Well, you know, there are those oblong sketchbooks that this book itself is formatted in. I love these types of survey books that introduce you to artists you've never heard of before, show you artists that you are familiar with, but show you their process and like kind of a behind the scenes looks. And overall, the lesson of the sketchbook should essentially be, it's important to remember not to be too precious, or to at least have a space specifically designated for wanton, unbridled mark making. I pulled a couple quotes from some artists. Sketching is to watch thoughts coming out of a pencil, to make anything I want, to rediscover some childhood feelings, to create strange shapes and to lose myself in a forest of unknown lines. Life becomes warm and loving because of handwork. My sketchbooks are a place for treasure and trash. Looking through them, it's a little journey to the zoo, the museum, past projects, pictures I collected, ideas I already forgot, and notes I don't understand anymore. I draw in my sketchbook rather like a cat under the chassis of a car, without worrying about who might see me. It is a safe and secluded place where I belong, and I can do whatever I want. I love this quote that Salisbury, who is an artist himself, pulled from John Minton. It's something to do with having a real love for the subject, having a real anxiety that it will escape, not just tolerating it as a possible subject, but loving it. Salisbury even showcases Ronald Searle, who drew in secret while imprisoned in a World War II labor camp, I believe. He managed to hide them and bring them back home with him after he was liberated, and those sketches are now in the Imperial War Museum in London. I've also been watching The Bear, and there are so many like loving scenes of Harm writing in his notebooks. And then of course I had to rewatch from season 1 and seeing like the impact of his journal keeping over the years and how important it is to have that space for yourself to chronicle those times in your life, like during each of his stages. And it's just always fascinating to see these handmade records of humanity from so many different places, perspectives, visions. It's also very comforting to me personally to see so many others struggling with their sketch work versus their finished work, which is something that I personally struggled with while I was in art school. Like personally, I just always had so much more fun drawing in my sketchbook and feeling like that burst of creativity. You know what? Let me dig some of my high school and college sketchbooks and I'll just show you a little bit. Like I took high school French, and in the margins of the notes I would just draw like fashion stuff because that's what I enjoyed. I guess this is what I was into. Oh, flashbacks. Oh my god. Wedding ideas. This was pre-Pinterest, solidly pre-Pinterest times. I would have to go to a lot of gallery shows and take the gallery cards and paste them into my sketchbook, but I would want to, you know, like make drawings in the margins of them all, and that would be like the most fun that I would have, as opposed to drawing like as the actual like finished projects. Oh, and of course I've got one of these guys, one of these bad boys. Oh, I forgot about this. I believe this was my life drawing sketchbook. A lot of nudes. Except unless it's me. I was very interested in this pink ballpoint pen for some reason. Yeah, this was like not my fun sketchbook. This is definitely a life drawing sketchbook. This was, again, pre-Pinterest, everyone. I would like print and paste like famous paintings. I guess I had a thing for John Singer Sargent at this point, and write notes in the margins. But then I would like want to, you know, like this is a drawing that I did that I put up. Boobies. Oh, this is a life drawing. Life drawing. Oh, this is a classic Yoshitomo Nara 2009 that I would again sketch in the margins of. This must be my fun sketchbook. Oh, definitely had a thing for Aya Takano. I like legitimately ripped off like all of her beanie style. And then I guess I have some watercolor sketches here. Aww, blast from the past. I miss colored pencils. Don't knock until you try 'em. Oh, if I recall correctly, I looked at a lot of Japanese fashion magazines also for like life study. Yeah, that was a blast from the past. I read a lot of like random nonfiction books in June. I read A Walk in the Woods, Rediscovering America on the Appalachian Trail by Bill Bryson. I read this as a library audio read by Rob McKay. So this book is kind of old. It came out in 1998. And I primarily read this because at my age currently, men, including my husband, have been like starting marathon training and wanting to pursue these like outdoor challenges. I guess I just kind of wanted to understand the mentality behind wanting to push yourself in that direction. I don't think this book was it for my purposes. This is very much more an informative, like memoir / nature book. I, to say the least, did not enjoy this book. I really struggled with it. First of all, I don't think I like Bill Bryson as a human being. The entire time he was just talking about how much of an imbecile his like quote unquote friend is that he goes on these hikes with is, and how, and you know, like not saying without saying how much better he is than this other guy. He basically like ditches his wife and kids for days, for weeks to like pursue this. I'm sure that he's being paid to do this, to write about, but at the same time, he is also abandoning his wife to take care of shit while he's gone finding himself. So I was generally annoyed by that aspect. His voice is also just very manly, which I did not get along with. And I just felt uncomfortable. I did not like the man. I did not like being outside all the time. And it all just made me feel uncomfortable. And, you know, like more than anything, I kind of hated what that said about me than anything else. And I say this about this book. I say this about me in general and the way that I'm living my life currently. I want to feel less entrenched in my one way of life. Like I am so used to being solidly in my lit fic, feminist POV lit fic. That is my comfort zone, my wheelhouse. And anything outside of that, my initial impulse is to go, ew, no. But I don't want to do that, because if I keep doing that for everything else, like I'm just going to be in an echo chamber. So I'm not so much as recommending this book, but I am recommending that feeling of getting out of your comfort zone. And while I still have zero intentions of hiking the AT, and like rather than profoundly understanding the people who choose to do so, the only measure of movement I have made is merely accepting the fact that there are people who do so. So has this profoundly changed me? No. However, I am reminded that there's more than sad women. Yeah, this is a skip. I read Enchantment, Awakening Wonder in an Anxious Age by Katherine May. I read this as a library audiobook read by Rebecca Lee. This is a pandemic book. It's a lockdown baby. I love that. It's about parenting and motherhood. I love that. However, I did not love this book as much as I wanted to. I did read Wintering, her previous book that was very buzzy. I think I thought it was so-so. There were like parts that I liked within it. I really wanted to like Enchantment, like seeing what it was kind of about. I was all about it, but I think it was the like very white woman brooding, hand-wringing, like guilt, how did we get here vibes that was putting me off. Very much like, where do we go from here? And very woo-woo. But I think its biggest crime is just it's overall quite dull. Yeah, nothing really resonated with me at all, despite the fact that it's not like I was disagreeing with anything that she was talking about. Yeah, maybe this is like a solid, despite the facts, not for me. Like, this book isn't necessarily going to age just because it's a pandemic baby. It's like a lockdown baby. It's not about lockdown specifically. It's about any anxious time period, whether globally or personally. So I do think that you will be able to read this at any time, years from now. So perhaps down the line, I will find this book again, but perhaps this is a wrong book at the wrong time situation, and down the line, I will find it once again and it will resonate with me more. I don't know. I'm just not here right now. She's another British woman writer that I so thought I would love, like Ali Smith, but I find that I don't. I also feel like she's in the same category of writer as Sheila Heti, Rebecca Solnit, but for me, at this time, doesn't come close to their power. I read A Life's Work on Becoming a Mother by Rachel Cusk. My second Rachel Cusk. I pretty much nodded along, going, yep, that sounds right. That's pretty accurate throughout this book. Just things like worrying over how much the baby is eating, sleeping, how little time you have outside of baby time. Like Sigrid Nunez, lots of literary references, like just straight off the top of her head, to serve as inspired analogies. And also like Nunez, very much in the upper middle class white women world, expect that class of shenanigans of, like, you know, other heinously petty moms and justifying her actions. But like, also keep in mind, this is from 2003. Not to say that that's an excuse, just maybe as a explanation. Like, for instance, there was a story of a POC nanny who calls her guilt ass out. Overall, I enjoyed like how thinky she got with this topic. I'm not going to say like I wish I read this right after I had my kid, because for me, like, remembering that time, it was such an insular time. Like, I remember it was when Beyonce's Lemonade album came out. I was like, Beyonce who? Lemonade what? Like, what is happening? I just did not think about anything else other than like immediately what was at hand. That was my experience. This was I guess nice time reading about another woman's experience. Yeah, I didn't love it, but I didn't hate it. It just was. I read Girl in a Band by Kim Gordon as a library audio read by the author, purely because I saw this like Instagram thing that she commented on, like Chloe Sevigny's post, where she was like shading a Kardashian or like a Real Housewife. I don't know, I guess I'm extremely impulsive the way that I choose what books to read. Anyway, I literally read this in its entirety while I was editing a video. And I found her to be not a great reader, an unremarkable writer. I've never listened to Sonic Youth. Yeah, again, maybe this is a not for me book. She lived in Southern California during the 60s. She was in the New York art scene during the 80s. And apparently you end up meeting and getting to know people just by going out a lot. And this bitch apparently just happened to be at the right time, right place every time. I also always think I'm pretty pretentious until I'm confronted by an even more insufferable voice than my own. Or maybe it just takes one to know one. I don't know, but that's how I felt about her. She made me swing all the way over to populism. Like, she didn't let her daughter listen to the Spice Girls because they're corporate feminism marketed by men. So I just, strongly rolled my eyes. And that, plus like other slander against people like Madonna, Lana Del Rey, even Marc Jacobs. Yeah, actually, there's a long list of celebrities in here that she just casually disparages. She must be real popular. A lot of stories of like her working all these jobs that she was severely underqualified for and then blowing them off. The cheap rents and cost of living doesn't help stifle my anger. And I always find this to be the case, but nevertheless, it still surprises me every time. But she comes across very normy, despite her avant-gardeness that is, very frustrating. Yeah, I also found her to be very hypocritical. Like, she's talking a lot about relationships and fashion while also putting down women who to be like consumerist. She's just another Carrie Bradshaw, but in the key of punk, not pop. Yeah, again, none of this is surprising. It's just disheartening, bubble bursting. I finally finished The 90s, a book by Chuck Klosterman, because I got it as a library audiobook read by the author with like his cute lispy voice, and Dion Graham, who sounds exactly like John Hamm, doing like the non-narrative like the footnotes. Extremely informative, as you might expect. But I also kept wondering, like, who is this book for? Because it felt like the millennials equivalent of like Gen X's Ken Burns documentaries. And personally, I was a child during the 90s, and all of the things that he mentioned I either vaguely recall or like had very strong memories, and it was like nostalgic memories, such as like when my mom would buy like 10 McDonald's cheeseburgers because on I believe Wednesdays they only cost 20 cents each, and she would just feed those to me for like a week. They would be like a week's worth of school lunches. Or like I had a VCR rewinder that looked like a race car. Regularly getting those AOL CD-ROMs for like free 50 hours in the mail. Oh, the hours of daily TV watching, because the lineup was specifically designed for it. Like Saturday mornings, it would be, I'm not gonna age myself. I'm gonna stop. Okay, one more. I wrote fan letters to my crushes, and yes, they were fictional animated cartoon characters. I wrote one to Johnny Quest and Terry McGinnis. Oh, I still have a burning, still hold like a flame for them in my heart. I also like learned new things, like learning things now, contrary as to what was known at the time, such as how the Columbine, this isn't funny, but the Columbine kids, like the shooters, I remember at the time, like I was told that they were Marilyn Manson fans, but they actually prefer Ramstein. And when Marilyn Manson was asked what he'd have said to the boys, to the shooters, he said, "I wouldn't have said, I'd have listened." And oh my god, I just immediately thought of that SNL Bill Hader skit that I will link in the description box. Yeah, I want like a sequel for the aughts. I found this to be very incredibly enjoyable. Yeah, this was fun. This was a nice approach to nonfiction writing. I looked at the other books that Klosterman wrote. None of them really like appealed to me, but let me know if you have read the 90s and other Klosterman books that you liked or thought was similar to the 90s. Please let me know. I read First Love, Essays on Friendship by Lilly Dancyger. This is another new release, nonfiction. I believe I read this as a library audiobook read by the author. I like this. This is very straightforward, very reflective, honest. Again, nostalgic for the millennial girls who grew up in the aughts, feeling left out of the culture, or at least disgusted by the current culture as I was. I pulled this quote, which I found absolutely savage. "I did a decent job of creating a bohemian life for myself, considering the fact that the folk singers and beat poets of Washington Square Park had long ago been replaced by NYU students who dressed like store-brand Paris Hiltons." I really enjoyed the Sad Girl essay. I liked the way she reflected on grief and mothering and the complexities of female friendship, but like written quite simply, nevertheless very thought-provoking. And I think I like this so much because she is extremely compassionate in her approach, wading through like all this horrific violence and trauma. Maybe that's the heart of what I'm writing about here. Care. Not just to care about someone, but to care for them, to take care of. Yeah, if you're in the mood for something extremely reflective, extremely thoughtful, a memoir written in the form of essays, focusing on female friendships, I would definitely recommend this. I read Elektra by Jennifer Saint as a library audio, but then I got the physical copy from my library. It was read by Beth Eyre, Jane Collingwood, and Julie Teal for the Elektra, Clytemnestra, and Cassandra voices, I believe, respectively. So much drama, so much SA. I was too unkind to Costanza Casati's Clytemnestra. I think Clytemnestra is a lot better than Elektra. This is so self-serious. The tone is so dramatic. It's almost like it just feels silly at this point. Helen and Menelaus being a love match. There's a lot of women against women, with like Clytemnestra slut shaming her sister Helen, and she's like jealous of her beauty, envious that she has so much pretty person power and like she gets away with everything. Yeah, it feels like very Hollywood, or like whatever the British equivalent is, like as equally cringy as the movie Troy is, to which like to this day, I think I watched that movie when it came out in the 2000s, but every day, I kid you not, I hear Brad Pitt's voice saying, "Take it, it's yours," in his very American accent. Oh, it's so bad. I simply don't have much good to say about this. It just feels really old-fashioned, and if it's a contemporary retelling of a Greek myth, like what is the point? Like if this is how you're gonna do that, what is the point? So I was also simultaneously reading 1,000 Ships by Natalie Haynes as a library audiobook, read by the author. It was so good, I actually ran out, bought this from Target because I wanted to like highlight in it, and I didn't even realize that Elektra and 1,000 Ships are essentially the same story. They're both contemporary retellings of the Odyssey. Even the title, 1,000 Ships, is more poetic than Elektra. I love how petty Natalie Haynes writes Athene, "You cannot have my owl." She's just so much more heartbreaking while still tender. The Penelope letters to Odysseus are just so lovely. This is my last Natalie Haynes. Tragic, I know, but I also think this is my favorite Natalie Haynes, and just exactly what I want from a contemporary Greek myth retelling. If you are like curious and want to dip your toe in a Greek myth contemporary retelling with a feminist POV, a la, Madeline Miller, definitely check out Madeline Miller's books with like The Song of Achilles and Circe. But I highly recommend. I don't think Natalie Haynes has talked about enough. Like those two books of Madeline Miller, I know that they're buzzy. I don't know if Natalie Haynes is as buzzy. She should be buzzier. And I want everybody to at least, take a gander, if not start with 1,000 Ships. She had already learned that the worst dreams were not the ones where the flaming walls were crashing down on you, or where armed men were chasing you, or where your beloved menfolk were dying before your eyes. They were the ones when your husband lived again, when your son still smiled, when your daughter looked forward to her wedding. So good, so good. I read Schmutz by Felicia Berliner as a library ebook, really randomly. I don't know why. I also found this to be quite juvenile. Like, I know that this is not like a YA book, but the tone kind of feels like it. At the same time, I also watched for the first time season 1 of The Sopranos, very serendipitously, because they're very similar. This book is like The Sopranos, but about a Hasidic Brooklyn Jewish girl with a secret sin being a modern woman with a porn addiction. There's just a lot of Jewish culture strongly immersing you into the world of this book, into Raisel's world of extreme patriarchal rules. But I also couldn't get over the very whitewashing of the culture feels for the sake of cuteness. I feel like the cover really says it all. If you think that this cover is tongue-in-cheek, very cute, that's how you're gonna take away from it. But if you think it's just a little childish like me, then that's how you're gonna feel about it. Yeah, I just felt like the overall tone of this felt very smarmy without knowing itself to be. Like maybe a little patronizing. I don't feel anything genuine in its LGBTQ representation. I also just really hated the main character. And that's what my instincts are really based off of, the treatment of the main character. She ultimately is just out for herself, not at all for her family that she uses as her excuse, and she just wants to feel victimized. But I don't think the book is written with those intentions. Yeah, I don't remember why I wanted to read this. I ended up reading it. I should have DNF'd it, but I don't do that. And nothing about... and I just feel like this book was written with the intention of readers to go, oh, how cute. Like, ooh, what an interesting world. But yeah, I got no takeaways from it other than just saying no thank you. I read People We Met on Vacation by Emily Henry as a library audiobook read by Julia Whelan. It is Ajuma's first M-Hen, and oh boy, it feels like a rom-com with Mad Libs, like friends to lovers, check. Witty repartee, check. Random ass job of main character. She's a travel influencer. Check. Rainy day sex scene, check. But thankfully, because a very smart woman is at the helm of the pen, I guess, even though it's very easy to like roll your eyes at this, I found this to be very enjoyable. Like I could hear the bossa nova background music. I could hear the emotional string ensemble swelling at the climactic, like what's the word? I can only think of the Korean word because of like K-drama stuff, but like the Quebec scene where like someone's confronting like the confrontation scene. confession scene. Oh, this is why people love K-dramas. I personally don't watch K-dramas. Like usually in this genre, I typically groan and go like, just tell them that you love him. But I didn't for this, and I just had a lot of fun with the story. I even liked the epilogue. I felt like it was pretty rooted in like reality, in good faith. Yeah, overall, I found the plot kind of irrelevant, but like I enjoyed the tone. I enjoyed like the feels from it. I know how like extremely popular and famous Emily Henry is, and even just from like the book covers and like all of her titles kind of hint at like the setting of the book, I guess. But I'm getting the sense that that's not really the point at all. It's just like this is going to be the same story, but just in this type of setting, in this type of situation. So because of that, I'm in. I found out that my local library has a book club, like a monthly book club, and the month of July is Book Lovers, so that will be my next M-Hen. So yeah, I'm looking forward to this. And not gonna lie, I don't find Emily Henry as captivating. She doesn't like speak to my heart as much as, or is as fun as Curtis Sittenfeld, but I do find her better than like wishy-washy Sally Rooney. And last but not least, I read Joan by Katherine J. Chen, which I own the physical copy of, but I was going back and forth between this and the library audiobook read by Hannah Morish. I also buddy read this with Grace, who introduced me to like the really cool Storygraph buddy read feature. I don't know what else I was expecting, but this is maybe like the most medievally story. Yeah, I don't know. Like it's about Joan of fucking Arc. Like it is solidly in the Middle Ages. But oh my, the violence. I confess that I did go in with this expecting like a YA tone. I don't know why. Like maybe it's the cover, not that the cover really inspires YA feels. Katherine J. Chen goes in hard with a badass, wily AF bitch Joan. You know, I was reminded of when I watched the Gal Gadot movie Wonder Woman. You know, I'm not gonna say that that was a great movie. I'm not gonna say this is a great book, but I like for both that movie and this book, I went in with like no expectations. But just from like watching a strong female character flexing her biceps, seeing the sheer strength of her fingers as she broke walls, it was exhilarating. I did not know that I needed this until I saw it. That's what I mean. I very much enjoyed this interpretation of Joan, incorporating reality with religious, like magical, mystical elements that she's known for. The absolute heartbreak and anger that we suffer because of stupid self-serving men. Yeah, this was very fun. The sheer force of this character made this book a very compulsive read that I highly recommend. I kind of feel like this book came out of nowhere and just like body slammed itself into my heart. Kind of like the Kool-Aid, the Kool-Aid guy, just like bursting through the wall and being like, I'm here, you're gonna love me. That's what this book did. So that was everything that I read in the month of June. Really random, but I think every month I say that, and it's quite true. I feel like at this point I should really like check myself more and like restrain myself from these like real randos. I don't want to say that I'm like wasting my time because I don't generally adhere to that belief. I don't think anything is really a waste of time. Like you do end up learning a bit from everything that you experience. If anything, like you get a stronger grasp of like what you like and what you dislike. And every now and then you find things that you didn't think that you would like so much, like that random architecture book. And you know, I still need to do the mid-year book video, which, you know, I know the questions because I've done it for the past several years, but I haven't thought through what my answers would be for them. And I also haven't looked at my my 2024 intentions. I know that I veered heavily from that. So yeah, this is a good midpoint. And now I'm all caught up in my wrap-ups. Thrilled about that. The other thing that I want to note is I really feel like I started BookTube with like a really wide-ranging eclectic mix of books, and then I got out of that. Like I was reading more lit fic. I was reading way more of just like one thing. And so this month with like the architecture book and just like the randos, I really felt like that original excitement from my reading experiences of several years ago that I haven't really been feeling, you know, like last year or the year before. So that's another reason why I can't say I should stop with the randos and rein myself in a little more. Like I say that I should, but I'm probably not gonna. And that's the reason why, like, it's okay to, you know, be like a barge ship and like take in a bunch of junk, because I mean, like personally for me, in my experience, that's how I've seen what was good, what was the treasure amidst the trash. So that's where I'm at. Thank you for watching this video and for listening to me in my random reading journey. Let me know if you've read any of these books and what you thought about them. Thank you so much for watching. And I'll see you next time. Bye!